Back at his homeland of Kunark, Lagar was on his way to Chardok, the ancient military fortress of the Sarnak, sworn enemies of the Ixers. But to get there, he would first need to go through some famous Kunark regions. The first of which was the OverThere, a savanna on the northern coast of the continent, filled with wildlife. Lagar had to run from a rhino and a tigress while traveling through there. They were so fast that he could not outrun them, so the only thing left to do was to feign death. He waited for a while and got up. The tigress saw him and attacked once again, but since he was so close to the Skyfire Mountains, this time he kept running. This temple-like structure, carved deep into the mountain, formed a tunnel that connected the OverThere to the Skyfire Mountains. The Skyfire Mountains are dominated by dragons, and it is home to Vishan's Peak, the lair of the Ring of Scale, Ixer's most powerful enemy. So Lagar was careful and walked around the edge of the mountains to make his way unnoticed. His destination was the Burning Woods. From a desolate rocky terrain to a forest with burning trees, Chardok was closed now. Lagar wouldn't need to travel through the burning woods for a long time, as the fortress was located at the north part of the forest, just where he entered it. As he was walking, he saw an Ixer named Nexat Deepwater. He wondered who she was. As he was getting closer to Chardok, the less dense the forest was, some Sarnaks started appearing as well. Lagar saw the flame of torches before he could see the massive fortress in the distance. A thick wall with two huge towers around the only entrance to the fortress would surely make an Ixer think twice about running towards the Sarnaks, but not Lagar. He only hoped there were no archers on top of those towers. Some guards were stationed at the entrance, but they were looking at each other. Only when Lagar was already inside the walls did the guards start chasing him. The monk used feign death, but was hit with a spell, so he got up and started running again. This time, the feign death was successful. There was still some distance between Lagar and actual Chardok, and this time he wouldn't stop until he zoned in. Sorry about that train, people. At least, it was just two mobs. With the group gathered inside Chardok, they devised a plan to get a camp for themselves. It was a simple plan. Bard speed run until a drop to the safe spot. But Lagar was stunned right at the start. Aramis and Montek also lagged behind, and they lost speed. Thankfully, all the mobs aggroed those with speed, and so the way was clear. They made it to the bridge and fell to the safe spot, with little to no harm. From here, there would be no more running. They had to clear the way fighting. Lagar looked at the map, trying to find himself, but it only made him more lost. This was the right time to buff, so Lagar waited a bit before leading the team further down. And of course, he took a wrong turn, leading the group to a dead end. Gulliver showed him the way and he started pulling. The claustrophobic tunnels of Chardok meant they needed to walk slowly. Lagar looked down to see if there were some mobs and opened his map. Surprise! Some Sarnaks came in from behind and attacked. The monk got them out of him by feigning death, and so they attacked the group instead. While fighting one of the Sarnaks, Lagar remembered of a piece of medallion he found in Karnos castle. Inscribed within were the words, "Middle shard of the Kylon medallion." He wondered if he would find another piece in Chardok. The gods themselves appeared to be reading Lagar's mind. That same Sarnak dropped another piece, top shard of the Kylon medallion. It seems there was only the bottom shard left for this medallion to be whole again. But that is a story for another time. Lagar looked around to see if there were any more mobs that would surprise attack them. There were none. The group made their way down and then took a right. This camp is what they call Bridge or Koro, and as all can see, it was already camped. So they crossed the first bridge into another camp, Graveyard, but not before dispatching a Dizok Dragoon. Coincidentally, the best pet for an enchanter in Chardok. The fight escalated to 2 groups and 5 mobs, but both groups kept their mobs aggroed, and they were victorious in the end. After this confusing fight, Lagar and his group finally crossed the bridge to the graveyard camp in Chardok. They found Vecna's corpse on their way and yet another area already camped. While waiting to rest Vecna and go to another peak of Chardok, a fellow guildmate appeared, dragging 2 corpses. It was really a graveyard down there. After Vecna was alive and well and they were out of combat, they changed peaks and went to Chardok number 10. This time they rushed the bridge invisible to claim the camp. There was another group right behind them, and lots of mobs that could wipe both groups, but they managed to survive once again. The other group was more experienced and had more high levels. In a DPS race, Lagar's group would surely lose, but they still tried to fight over the camp. The other group realized it would be detrimental to them trying to DPS race every mob even if they had a higher chance of winning. That's why they moved deeper and camped right in front of Kuro, thus splitting the camp known as Bridge. Lagar started pulling mobs from the part of the bridge they claimed. The mobs were tough here, but all was going well. Since the camp was split, Lagar had to pull some mobs from the graveyard camp. It was a long way from the mobs to the camp, and many times they were losing aggro. That's why Lagar looked back to see if the mobs were following him. And instead of moving to the left, he moved to the right, falling from the bridge. At least he was still safe. He did not fall into a pack of Sarnaks. But there was no way up. OverThere the magician was not high enough for a call of the hero yet, so the group decided to come down and rejoin Lagar wherever he was. Friends are really everything in this world. The group had to carefully consider how to get down to the mobs without aggroing lots of them. Lagar followed Gulliver and they fell down to a safe spot. They were gaining experience in no time after that. They realized they were at the camp named Bank, where there were treasurers and some treasury guards. It was quite an idyllic spot for the Sarnaks. The bank had an Ixer slave inside, a waterfall next to it, and a bunch of dogs surrounding a lake by the waterfall. They were angry dogs, but still Kunark dogs. The next day, the group rushed to the bridge to see if they could finally get the camp for themselves. They were slightly overwhelmed by the time they got to the captain's door, but it seemed they were going to make it. Until Aramis the cleric took a step too far back and aggroed more mobs from the bridge, including the ancient guardian. Hope was lost. Dreams were gone. Their end finally came for them, deep in Chardok. Montag was already down, and the rest of the group soon followed. Well, except for Lagar, who feigned death. The group eventually came back to get their corpses, but their spirits were broken. Drama was at an all-time high, and anger could be felt through those hallways. Lagar saw Aramis, lonely and sad, and tried to cheer him up, but he did not want to talk. And he did not want to join the group again. He was angry. He left for a while. And returned with a looking for group tag minutes later. Lagar sat face to face with him trying to talk some sense into Aramis, but he was adamant about not rejoining the group. Being a cleric, he soon found another group and gated out, taking Mizu with him. Lagar's group had no healers now. The group decided to go back to Sebilis and find another cleric. They went down to the crypts. The experience was slower, but it was safer, and they had access to a lot of rare mobs down there. Like Archduke Latol. Harbinger Fraglor. Baron Yusig, and many others. Many upgrades dropped that night, like the earring, fingerbone hoop, and Nafzar vambraces. As the group was ready to leave Sebilis, the most valuable item of the night dropped from a crypt caretaker. Sash of the Dragonborn, a 24% haste belt, at the time valued at 1 chrono. Guess who won the role? Yeah, the only outsider. Montek didn't even roll on it. Oh my. I guess it's time for more raiding below level 60. The next night was devoted to the Plane of Fear, Lady Vox, and the poisonous jungle dragon Severus. Thank you for watching, and if you're not yet subscribed, do so to keep following the journey of Lagar and his friends. Have a great day, and until next time.